Welcome to the show. Ain't Gonna Hurt Nobody podcast, episode 12.
Yep.
Good follow-up to that intro. I thought it was our best one yet.
That's all I got.
So we're going to hop right to it. We got a pretty heavy topic we're going to go through today. So for that, we brought back our first returning guest ever.
Oh, man.
Friend of the family.
What an honor.
Pressure. He is part of the family. We call him Father Time with a Y. Because in Milwaukee, they call the ATMs time machines.
Yeah, true story.
He also goes by Uncle Joe in our
I
household.
got the glasses to match now. Shout out 2060 vision.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Specific?
Mr. Joseph Levy is joining us today.
Hello,
Hey, Joe.
everyone.
What's
Hello.
Cool. So without further ado, we're going to get right into today's topic, which my lovely wife is going to introduce for us.
Sure. Well, our topic for today is adulting, the act of being an adult.
Oh, man.
So I know when you think about it, when you were a kid, you had like this vision in your head, especially I can only speak from the female side because I'm sure the dudes didn't have the vision of their dream weddings. But when you're, hell no. But when you're a little girl, you have like, you think about it like, I'm going to go to school, I'm going to get married, I'm going to have a princess wedding, I'm going to have kids, and I'm going to live happily ever after. And I'm actually, I'm a teacher. And one of my students on Friday said this to me. They were like, the point of school is for me to get good grades. They're in sixth grade. They're like, I'm going to get good grades up till eighth grade so I can get in good high school. Then I'm going to get good grades in high school so I can go to a good college. And then they were like, I'm going to get good grades in college so I can get a good job. And in my mind, I was like, because just because you get good grades in high school or college, that doesn't mean that your life is going to be so set. It's like basically from kindergarten up until maybe high school, your life is like set and you're always working to something. But after high school, it's kind of like rolling the dice. You just don't know what's up and what's really going to happen. And you could try your very, very best, and it still could be like shitty stuff that happens.
Yeah, you got to.
And that's like what being an adult
You got to see
is.
school as like a test of excellence. Like, oh, I can start this and I can finish it and do a good job. It's got to have purpose, but a lot of kids aren't taught that. They are taught that exact same
They
pipeline.
think like, I do good in college, I'm going to get a good job. It's like,
The reality is, the school system is really set up to provide you a lot of structure where you really don't have you have ways to fail, but it's set up for you really not to fail as long as you show up every day. And in the real world, showing up is not just enough. And for me, like, that's what you don't learn kind of going through the school system that we have now from pre-K all the way through college. Like, with each step, there's more on the line. There's more responsibility and accountability. Once you get to college, if you don't show up for class, the teachers don't give a damn. That's just one less paper they have to grade. They already got your money, and they can still drop you from class. In high school, you get detentions and in schools and eighth grade and below. I don't even remember what they did for that. My school was so small, everybody just showed up because you ain't had no place else to be. So
we missed you yesterday. They know your ass ain't there.
Especially there's only 6 of us. But I think like a lot of what was happening, especially with more and more kids knowing that college is the route you're supposed to go. I think what happens once you finish college, I think that's really what's not portrayed realistically. And then once you're 10, 15 years out of college, what's going to come with life. And I think this episode will be a crash course for those to understand better the stuff you're going to deal with as you kind of go through life. So, we like to do our list. So we'd set up the top 10 things that you should know about adulting. So with that, let's get into our first fact. So first things first, and Joy kind of hinted at this already. First thing you should know about adulting. Getting a job after college is not as easy as 1, 2, 3. I can personally attest to this. I graduated from Marquette back in 2004. I had a decent GPA. Me being in advertising, I was actually featured in Ad Age as one of the most promising minority students And even with that, the best job I could land at that time was a $7 an hour internship at a agency in Milwaukee. So it took me a good 15 months to land my first full-time job coming out of college, having already done 2 internships plus now this third one before I landed my first full-time corporate job. So the time frame to getting that dream job, even if you've identified your field and you want to go there, some people have something as soon as they leave school. It took me 15 months before I landed my first job in advertising, first full-time job in advertising after I graduated. So lo and unbeknownst to me, I had to move back in with my mom and my then pregnant sister with my 1-year-old niece, who is going to be a junior this year, which is crazy. So, graduating and having your career or knowing what you want to do isn't a guaranteed.
I was going to say, I kind of got a funny, I guess, opposite to that, because it's coming up on like 13 years in the military. And getting out of active duty, I got out in 2015, and it kind of was the opposite. But even still, you could get a job, but it may not be the ideal job. Like, I was a trash student in high school, not for lack of intelligence, but more so lack of effort. I kind of knew at that time school wasn't it. It kind of goes back to the pipeline we were talking about, like, you got to go to college. Like, that's just the thing we do, especially in minority communities. Like, we trying to put on for the culture, you know what I mean? So you think you have to do that. And then when I got to college, those terrible habits I developed as a high school student and just a student, as a young teenager and adult, they obviously carried over. So one day, like literally, it was my English final and I was doing pretty good at the class. But I was just like, you know what? I don't want to do this. Like, Joy had been talking to me, like, you need to do something, because, I mean, growing up in Milwaukee, it's really nothing there like that. It's not the best city. Like, it's way easy to get in trouble and just kind of be a burnout, or just, have life hit you hard. But so I was going to go to my final. I was like, you know what? Instead, I'm going to go to the recruiter and I'm going to just do this Air Force thing. It might be tough, but it's going to put some money in my pocket, because at that time, I didn't really have a crazy good job. So I was like, yeah, let me do that. It's going to afford me the money to like buy stuff so I can work on music, so I can get the clothes I want. So it was a good deal. So I was like, you know what? I don't have to do this school. Let me just sign up for BMT. And that's what happened. Like, I say like maybe 8 months later, I was at San Antonio, Texas, Lackland Air Force Base, and the rest is ongoing history.
Yeah. I mean, you didn't start high school thinking, you know what, I'm gonna go to the Air Force. That
Definitely
wasn't what
not.
you were thinking. It became your best option.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's a lot of times as you become an adult, that's what you're left with, your best option.
What's crazy is, Joy, you may not remember this, but you and Dad, that was about the time the Iraq War was like just jumping off, 02, 03. I remember because I was in JROTC in high school, so I was like, okay, this doesn't seem too bad. And the Army recruiter reached out. They thirsty. The Army will take criminals. No disrespect to the Army, but they'll take a lot more than the Air Force will. And he was like on me, hounding me, like calling every week. And I remember y'all pretty much went 45 minutes, like, definitely not. Don't do it. Look at the president. Look at the climate. Don't go in. And then it's crazy. Like Holly just said, it became my best option.
Yeah, like 2 years later.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's just like all depends on your environment. But just to stay on the topic, which is like your career could change, like that pipeline stuff, that's the real deal, because it's a lot of people out here just coming from as a teacher. It's a lot of people here, they're the valedictorian, but they're the valedictorian at like a hood school, and you're a valedictorian at like a mediocre school, and so you think you super smart, and then you get to like the real school. True. And you're like, oh shit, like I'm not that smart.
True.
I was either like the best behaved kid, so all the teachers like me. They gave me mad perks, and now I get here and I'm like, oh, like, why am I in remedial math? I'm not even at like college level math.
Yeah.
Or you got kids who have like an IEP. That means they're in special education, that lasts you till you 18. But once you 18, don't nobody care if you was special education or if you had an IEP. Like if the police pull you over, like these people are going back into society, and they've kind of been like, I don't want to say babied, but kind of like protected all throughout high school. Like I have students who have an adult that follows them around all day.
Yeah.
And it's like when you turn 18, that person is just gone, and you got to figure out life. So I just think when I went to college, I changed my major like 6 times. I didn't know what the hell I wanted to do. Then when I got out and I finally like, oh, I'll be a teacher. Like my college courses did not prepare me pretty much for anything for that job, because being a teacher was like super hard. They didn't prepare you for grading papers, calling parents, like all the lesson planning, dealing with the students. Like in hindsight, I didn't have one class on classroom management at all throughout college.
Wow.
And if you don't know how to do that, like you really can't teach. So it's just like people get burnt out. Like in college, it's like you think, oh, this is going to be great. And then you hit the real world. And then there's another component of just people getting jobs. Like Coley said, he had 15 months without a job. But it's people who get jobs just based off their name, who they know, and they're not even that qualified. And they're taking jobs from you. And I feel like that's something I didn't realize till I was like 28. I was like, oh, wait, like, no matter how hard I work, like somebody might just get this job because their uncle works here.
Yeah, that's true.
It's like, oh, okay.
But I kind of feel like in some ways that can be a part of it, but that's like that unspoken.
Yeah.
Those are unspoken mores of being an adult. Maybe I need to make this connection so that maybe me making this connection might put me there. But sometimes those connections are kind of lecherous. I don't know if that's the proper word.
That's a very good term.
But it can be like bad connections, like, you know, like more like a finesse on somebody working hard. So that's another like fine line you have to walk as being an adult trying to get a career. Like, is this a good connection? I need to put a lot of emphasis on trying to make a connection, because that's one thing I dealt with in Air Force. That's a lot of that. Like, you might not be great at your actual job, MOS in the Army, AFSC in the Air Force, but at the end of the day, like, if you can talk to the right, higher leadership, they gon' see that. Now I understand it. It's a balance. You got to know how to make them connections, but you still got to be competent. It's a balance, and they really don't teach that.
Yeah,
like good social skills to make good connections.
Yeah, I mean, we can go on about this particular point number one. I think a good reference for a lot of people is "Ain't Gonna Hurt Nobody" podcast, episode 3 with Corey Gilkey. We talked pretty in depth about trying to find your path after college. So go back, check out episode number 3 with Mr. Corey Gilkey for more on this point and an in-depth look at one's journey from college through a very successful entrepreneurial career.
Exactly. It's like that Solange song, "You Gotta Know," like on her new album. Shout out Solange. It's a great album. Okay, anyway.
Dope. So point number 2, getting married and finding that special someone. It's not as easy as it seems.
Yeah, you basically I know, like I said, my map was I'll go to college, I'll graduate, I'll find my boyfriend, I'll find my boo in college, and we'll get married straight out of college, which people do be doing. They'll graduate and get married, but I feel like that's not as common now as it was, even 10 years ago.
Yeah, it depends. I feel like in Milwaukee, you see it. Everybody's like hard bred on that timeline. Like, I had kids in my unit, like they be like 23, 24, like, oh, I'm going to my friend's wedding. But but
what if you're not that kid getting married?
There's
correct.
that too.
And I think too, with the emphasis that we need to put on our careers post college, it's harder. It can be more challenging to meet somebody and or start off that relationship, right?
True.
I think the average age of, I guess, our generation having kids is going up versus when our parents were. I mean, by the time my mom was 27, she had her third kid. By the time I was 27, I was still single. So
Yeah.
I think it's just a paradigm shift, and the emphasis that's put on career because of all the time and the investment that's made early on in education, internships, and then trying to find that career. Then most likely you're probably onto your second career after your first one didn't work out. Then you're trying to establish yourself there. Like, relationships become a lot harder to maintain, foster, nurture, water, and let grow. Mm-hmm. I think as you know, our last episode 11, with Mr. Joseph Levy, we talked a lot about dating apps and how that's kind of, you know, been good and bad for dating prospects and what it ultimately means. But just getting into a relationship is, you know, a lot harder when your job is your main focus. Because I'll tell you this, when you're single with no kids, that 10, 11, 12-hour day grind is typical, and you learn to live that. But once you get those kids, that's a lot harder to do and process. And, you know, you're looking for that work-life balance, but it's hard when you're the low man on the totem pole to talk about work-life balance when your boss is like, well, if I'm going to be with my kids, then who's going to be getting this work done that needs to get done? But
see, and then there's that too. That's what we kind of touched on episode 11. Like, on the flip of that, like, people will rush like a relationship, just like going back to social media again, or just in general to look good, like in front of family, on social media, wherever. Like, oh, they'll be like, oh man, I'm gonna just get with this person, and then that could hit your career too, because like you're forcing this relationship and it may not be a good fit for you. So you're doing the emotional labor there, and then it's affecting all parts of your life. So that could be a thing too, like people trying to get in a relationship so it looks good. Because I know we've had that, especially our mom. She's going to be like, oh, I want grandkids. Like, everybody got grandkids, or just people in general. At this age, I get a lot of that. Like, oh, man, you ain't got no kids. So,
yeah, but I think that's like more with the point of the single not married.
Yeah,
I feel like that's like, I don't put that in the category. Like, if you're like between 22 and 30 and you single and not married, I don't necessarily put that as a like negative.
Yeah.
But I feel like once you start getting over 30 and you single not married, that's like a stress that can be on you.
Yeah.
And it's
yeah,
like kind of like a part of adulting that I feel that some people didn't expect.
Exactly.
Like, I have people who I know who like definitely 100% did not expect to like not be married and not have kids.
Exactly.
It's like people who are like, shit, I didn't plan, when I planned out my life what an adult would look like, that was not in the picture. They thought they would be married with kids. They didn't like think that.
I feel like, and this might be a little bit of a tangent, I feel the longer you're single, the more comfortable you get being your own boss, not having to answer with nobody. So I feel like the longer it is, the older you get, I feel like it could be harder to establish that relationship unless you find someone who's on that same exact wavelength with you right off the bat. Like, there's just something to be said. Like, I know I was getting to that cusp. Had I not gotten in a relationship and or married right around the time I did, like, you just get used to the freedom of being single, like being unattached and being able to do your own thing. So I do think there's a comfort that comes with being single that you just don't have no more once you're in a relationship. And not saying that's a bad thing. To me, I feel like the longer you get into your own groove and living your own life, I feel like the harder it can be to like jump into a relationship, because your expectations on your mate get higher and higher because you've lived more life, you have more experience, you have more to bring to the table, so you want just as much, if not more, from the person on the other side.
Yeah. I think to me, that sums it up as something that comes with being an adult. So.
Absolutely. Which brings us to our third point, money.
Money.
You never have enough, no matter how much you make. I remember when I graduated from college, I said, you know what? If I can make $40,000 a year, I'll be straight. Forever. I thought, because at that time, that's what you needed. And as you progress throughout your career, your taste, I'll say, evolve. You become a little more discerning in what you will and will not do. You no longer will drink well liquor. You'll only drink mid-shelf and above. Which
rest in peace, that Mad Dog 2020.
Man.
R.I.P.
Yeah, still reserved. Put that back on the shelf. I want a craft beer.
No more Irken jerk for this guy. You can't do that.
Jesus Jesus.
Be hot and cold at the same time. Drinking that shit. But my short point is I think you never have enough money, because no matter how much you make, your lifestyle will chase the amount of money you're making. And then B, stuff can happen in life where you don't make the amount of money that you need, or you take on debt, or you take chances, or you take risk, or you buy homes, or you have children and other things that become financial commitments that can create problems down the line if everything doesn't line up perfectly.
Yeah, I think with the money thing, that's a big one that people, I think when you're a kid, especially like if you grew up in a home where like you had money problems, like I know like, we had some money problems or like financial issues as kids. So when you're a kid and you're thinking about, when I grow up, I'm gonna make $50,000. I'm not gonna go broke. I'm not gonna not pay my bills. You just like have these things that you're not gonna do because your parents did it, and then one day you look up and you're like, oh shit, like I'm doing the same thing, and then you're thinking to yourself like, why am I having financial problems? Like I know this is something I never wanted to happen to me, and yet it is. I have like no money saved up. I didn't budget my money this month. As I know, for me, a personal story, college was kind of like a safety bubble for me, and I was that one that, of course, got the credit cards in college because I was finally 18. And then once I hit about 26, like everything just started crashing down. I had too much debt. Your student loans, you got to start paying those, which everybody knows they got to pay them, but I don't think people really understand what it's like when you got to pay them loans. And then, your job situation, you might not be making as much as you thought. So
once them taxes start coming
taxes,
out,
and then
if you get that tax bill because you didn't have enough taken out,
or you trying to like keep up with the Joneses, and like one of your single friends just bought a condo, so now you think you got to buy a condo.
Yeah. You got to get a new car with that condo.
And all of a sudden you got a new car, and then like them financial problems. It's not a game, and then sometimes it's like true life, but your family members might not be bad with money, so now they're like, well, you out of college, so they come to you for money.
I've seen that a lot.
That's like, it's a lot of unexpected stuff. Like, wait, you my like auntie, why you asking me for $500? I just got a job.
Straight up.
Like, I'm not no shade against the aunties, but for real,
you know how that be. Like coming in there, like being in the military, people like, oh, that's government money. That money's gonna hit. Like, so hit my hand. Like, it's like,
for
bro,
real,
like
people be counting your money.
I'm trying to get my hand hit. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, don't let alone. And you really see that like in the military lifestyle, dudes be trying to keep up, and you know what I'm saying? Or you see it's for every like 2 troops that's like, oh yeah, man, my retirement, that's all they talk about. I've seen that. But then it's like 10 that's just out here living. Or it be the same ones popping that retirement shit. But then let's say we come back from a deployment, like, bro, you had to get the F-450, the $50,000, $60,000 one. Like, nah, I feel grateful kind of because I kind of learned that lesson. Like, I get trash cars or like not cool cars, but I could pay them off.
There's nothing wrong with driving a Subaru.
Yeah, Subaru. Shout out to the full all-wheel drive. Hold me down.
Safest car in the nation.
A bunch of 40-year-old geometry teachers and me in the dealership. But, hey.
And I think the big thing too is you just don't know what you don't know when it comes to your money. I think that's the one thing. But on one side of it, it's crazy because on one side of it, caution is the best way to go. But then on some things, when it comes to property, I wish, when I bought my first spot, I was 28, 29, something like that. If I would have just spent 20 grand more, I could have got a lot more space. And then sitting on it now, it probably be worth another, 40, 50 grand. So,
exactly.
In some circumstances, look at where you are in your career. If there's like growth potential, Like you can make some investment in some things like real estate, like or art, things that will appreciate over time. I think I remember when I graduated in 04, 05, everybody got a new Pontiac GT because they was the slickest cars on the market. Everybody got that Grand Prix GT or that G6.
Oh yeah, Lord,
they all had the
Pontiac was
notes.
killing it.
Yeah, they all had those notes. Everybody's note was about $450 a month. You put that over a year, that's almost what, 5-6 grand a year just on car note you're spending over 5 years. That's 30 grand. So guess what? That's a down payment in 5 years. So I drove my Buick, my 98 Buick Sentra. I bought it for a Puerto Rican dude out west for 3,200 cash. Scariest
transaction
ever in the history of the world. I learned what it meant to burn a car. That was also on the table for another vehicle, but we won't get. That'll be another episode.
Hey.
But but you just don't know what you don't know, and I think it's a matter of keeping everything in perspective, and understanding like, hey, just be cautious when spending it, because you got it today, don't mean you'll have it tomorrow.
Really, that's a lesson I had to learn these last few months.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. For me, I feel like the money I'm getting is enough, but you could take that for granted.
Yeah, you could think you need more, or
you really
you
don't.
could be like comparing yourself. I think that's the main thing I realized, that with the money, and I'm gonna wrap it up. But I just think like you could compare yourself to other people and what they're getting, but you don't know what's going on. Or like some people be literally having nest eggs, like their parents is paying their rent. Like you don't know, like their parents could be paying their rent. Their parents bought them the car. Somebody died in their family and left them money.
Yeah.
And you comparing yourself to them, it's like you just got to look at your money as an adult and make it work for you. That's it.
Exactly.
And I think that's a great transition into our fourth point, which is loss of job. I think no secret to most, like we're sitting here recording this episode on Father's Day 2019. I recently lost my full-time corporate gig. But that's part of the game, and that's what happens out here. It's happened to most. It's going to happen. It's probably going to happen to me and a lot of us again. But I think it's just one of those things that you don't anticipate with adults, and you do everything right. You show up to work every day, you deliver, then some stuff outside of your control, takes you out of the earning situation that you're in. Mm-hmm. And everything we talked about, having money and having money and having your career, all these things that you've been working for, it's just gone like that. And you just have to take it on the chin and get back out here and keep doing what you do. And I feel like that's something that you don't prepare yourself for at any level, because losing a job is not a reality we ever want to imagine or be a part of. But I believe most successful people, or anybody that you've dealt with, it's happened to multiple times.
I think too, with the loss of a job, just like, because I always go back to what I thought being an adult would be like as a child. And I knew, like, even as a teen, I knew like, people lose their jobs, but you always have that kind of like stereotype or generalization, like, they lost their job because they were like a shitty worker, like they weren't a good employee. They like, the only time you lose your job is because either you weren't doing a good job or you're gonna get fired. But in actuality, people like are exceptional workers, and they'll just decide like, we're closing this office tomorrow, like, and it has nothing, or we're eliminating your position, or we got to lay some people off, and it has nothing to do with your like productivity. And I feel like that was something that I didn't plan for. Like, you could be a great teacher and getting the results, but if they close, like for instance, when I was an adult, I had been a teacher for 2 years, they just closed my school. That had nothing to do with me. Like, the school closed. And so you just got to plan, I wouldn't say for the worst, but you got to take off the rose tinted glasses.
Yeah, exactly. And for me, kind of to add on that, that's another thing. Like, you think like maybe letting a job go, like, I'm finna leave, because that's what happened to me, like being a student and then working at the VA. Like, again, that's a government job, that's solid, but the work was interfering with my schoolwork, so I was like, nah, I'm not finna do that. And then after that, it ended up being a pretty rough like few months trying to just find any kind of work, because you kind of prematurely took a step. So that can be a thing too. You kind of gotta know how is this gonna impact me? It's a risk when you dealing with jobs, especially in today's America.
Yeah, it's like
you could lose it, or if you give it up, you might end up wanting it back. Yeah.
Or you might not be able to find something as quick as you might think, because you're like, oh, I'm a good worker, like somebody gonna hire me.
Yeah.
But it just don't always work in the time frame that you think.
Yeah, your resume might not be cracking like you think.
Yeah.
Straight up.
I think the other thing too is our jobs are synonymous with our identity. You know, I think a lot of people identify their pride, their self-esteem, their worth, and their self-identity to their job. You know, you're, Nick, the, producer, you're Coley, the marketer, you're Joy, the teacher, but it's like, you're Nick.
That's
many
it.
things, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You're Coley, many things. You're Joy, many things. You're Joe. You're Uncle Joe. That's it. Nothing more. Nothing less.
I'll take it. That's a great job to have.
The older you get, especially as you get into your careers, you've been at the same spot 5 years plus, you really become one with your job. And your job doesn't become a means to an end. It becomes the end. And I think that's what really fucks us over a lot. So, just out here, if you guys aren't listening to anything, like, you are more than your 9-to-5 job.
Exactly.
Don't let that define who and what you are. Like, it's a means to get paid, nothing more, nothing less. You can love what you do, you can have passion about it, but at the end of the day, your job, your company you work for is trying to make money, and you are part of that goal. If they see you as not part of that goal, you're not there no more.
Yeah,
that's it. Cut and dry.
And be fluid with that, so you can move with it.
Yeah, always have that next step. Like, for real.
Might be love, but not necessarily loyalty, which I think is not the best transition, but it gets us to point number 5 about adulting. You lose or walk away from friends. The relationships and the bonds that you had with people you know your whole life just change, and in some ways they disappear. And not all of it is over drama or bad things. It's just you go your separate ways.
Yeah,
ain't that the truth?
There's something to be said, and it was a Breakfast Club interview with 21 Savage, and he was talking about relationship with women, and he said he would rather have a woman that's loyal to him versus a woman that loves him.
Yep.
Because love, and the point he made, like, love comes with time and proximity, just being around each other. If you're around this group of people in this room, if we're around each other every day for 3 straight years, there's always going to be a love and a bond that we have there. But the minute one of us ain't there and you on to your next situation, your next job, that love that was brought on by closeness and proximity is gone. But that loyalty, like, no matter how often you see each other, you pick up right where you left off. Like, the best man at my wedding, he still lives in Chicago, lives on the Northwest side, and we maybe see each other twice a year. But we lived together for 2 years after college, and we hung out every day, pretty much from senior year of high school till we were about 25, 26. We was like every day, and now it's like twice a year because we have kids, we have families, we have wives, we have other obligations. So there's the love is there. The loyalty is probably even stronger now because we don't see each other as often. So we're going to be friends even though we don't see each other. But other people have disappeared, and, they Insta stories. We Insta stories to each other now. Nothing more than that.
Yeah, no, that friends thing is true, but I just always, when I was a kid, you just don't think that, though, because you see movies and it's like, oh, we went to elementary school and then she was the bridesmaid in my wedding and we had kids together. Like, that's what you really think. And for some people that does happen, but I don't know how, like, common it is. As I know the people I was kicking it hard in high school, like my best friend in high school, like I literally have not seen her since high school, and then she was like my best friend. And then
a funny story, Tish was that's Joy's friend. She's in the military as well, and I may have talked to her more than Joy has.
Yeah, like
due to the military.
Yeah. Then in college, it was a group that we kick it hardcore. Like, we don't even like see each other really. I remember, like, for my wedding, I was trying to get one of them to, like, be in my wedding. I could not reach her. Like, one person I couldn't, like, they just went ghost. Like, people be just, like, ghosting you, and then you take it personal, like, damn, is it me? What the hell happened? And people just be having life. Stuff be happening.
Yeah.
But they know everything about you though. Like, you know, there's people you haven't seen 6, 7 years, 10 years, but they know our kid's name, and they were like, "Oh, they got that." She wore the Wu-Tang onesie too. I was like, "What do you mean?" Like,
what the hell you talking?
Yeah,
social media.
Social media. People be tracking you. Yeah. I just feel like relationships, you find out what they're built on, and the irony is, it's not just other people. You'll ghost people as well, and not even realize that you've ghosted people, and not, you feel bad about it, but as the different priorities in life, once you're in that relationship, in order to be in a fully committed relationship, that means you're taking away time from your friends. That's just inevitable. It's not you're choosing one over the other, but to like give a relationship everything you need, that means your time with your friends is gonna be cut significantly. Your time with your family is going to be cut significantly. You'll go back once you kind of in that rut and that trust and that rhythm is there. But once that stuff kind of gets moving along, the friendships and the people that you spent your formative years with, that just is gone.
Yeah, or you deal with, like with me, I got my homeboy John, and Joy, John, he grew up in our same neighborhood. Like, we used to do everything together, play the game and all of that stuff for years. But now, like, something that I kind of deal with, hopefully John doesn't hear this and feel away, but it's like,
hopefully he does hear this because he's listening to the podcast and
following us. Nobody. But like, it's just like sometimes we want to meet, but we want to meet on our terms. That's something that can happen with like friendships as you get older. Like, he'll hit me up that same day, but it's like, bro, I needed some advance notice, or I'll hit him up and it's like, nah, man, I gotta work. So you can kind of get selfish because your time holds significantly more value as you get older. So
you just everybody just gets their own routine, and it's like after a while you just might not fit into that person's routine. And then I would say something else. It's like you be thinking like, oh, when I have kids, I'm gonna have all these mom friends, and then like you realize like, oh, like it's hard for me to make new friends. Like the older you get, like people don't be wanting to make new friends. Like they're not trusting. They're not open to like new friendships. They want to be with the same people that they know, and it's hard to make new friends too. Like. It just is, like, as you're an adult. That's my opinion. I don't know what you guys think, but I just think it's more challenging to meet new people, and like for them to be your friend.
Yeah, I feel like I'm indifferent because I'm kind of a social dude, but still.
But you ain't got like a new best friend.
Yeah.
Like, no, you don't.
No, you don't.
Yeah.
Like, but you don't. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like you got people that don't get me wrong. Yeah. Like, we now know Nick, but you know what I'm saying? Like, he don't even follow us on our IG page yet, man. Come on, man.
Nick, look how they doing. They like, we don't know this nigga. We don't know that nigga. Like,
man, I don't know why they gotta do you like that.
Oh, yeah.
Nakachuk, that's it. That's it. That's all we know. So I think it's a matter of priorities and how much you want to prioritize your friends and how much they want to prioritize you.
True.
It ultimately just comes down to that. And if you want to make the shit work, you will.
True.
So I think what we're going to do is shift gears a little bit with point number 6 here. And we spent a little bit of time on some of these. And I think these here get into the hardcore side of adulting. So point number 6 is taking care of parents. So let's say you're living that ideal trajectory. You graduate from college, you eventually land that good job, you climb the ladder, you're now making good money, you found that special someone, you guys are now in a good relationship or even married. You guys have your home together. You might have some kids. You might have your 2.5 kids, your 2 kids and a dog. And then all of a sudden, a parent gets sick. Or each of your parents gets sick. Or all of a sudden your parents have lost their job. Or your parents are now having difficulties living independently. Guess what? The kid now becomes the parent. So you're now taking care of your life and your family and your home. And now you have to provide care for your parents.
Yeah.
And, without getting into all of our situations, as most of you know, shortly after Joy and I had Chance, our first child in 2015, we found out that my dad got a terminal cancer illness with multiple myeloma. So he went from, being the person who was going to be our primary child care provider So now being a person needing to go to chemotherapy, needing to go, being rushed to the emergency room pretty much once every 3 months, being the person having to go through a stem cell a transplant that required both Joy and I to be on call more or less. There's several things that happen where you never once imagine a scenario where you're now going to have to take care of your parent. And even some extreme cases, your parent is going to have to now live with you. And just know that could potentially come at the expense of your relationship with your spouse or your partner. And I think a lot of what you learn in school, that's never one of the things that comes up once. But your parents needing to be your dependents is a real thing, and it happens more often than a lot of people know, and it's a huge strain on your life, on your relationship, on your mental status, and it's a part of adulting that we want to shine a light on.
Yeah. Well, I think just like as a kid, you're not gonna hear about it because your parent don't want you to know that like someday you gonna have to take care of me, because they're like, when you're a kid, they're kind of like, I don't want to say like an idol, but they're up on a pedestal.
They're gods.
Even to me, my parents were on a pedestal up till 18, but then in college, stuff started getting a little shaky because I was dealing with paying bills, and I'm like, well, wait, why you ain't pay your bill? And then it starts like getting like the pedestal starts getting lowered, and it's not always necessarily that you have to take care of them due to health. It's like they're just like, either you're on the same playing field because they're making like random choices and decisions that you're an adult now. You see like, dude, that decision was like not good. And then the pedestal gets lowered and you're on the same playing field with your parent, which sometimes that could cause resentment. That can cause issues in your relationship. You're arguing all the time. So there's an emotional taking care of that you don't expect. You know, it might not, a little bit you might expect like, yeah, they're going to eventually get sick and die. Like you kind of in the back of your head know that, but I didn't expect for them to like all the choices they make for me to be like the stable one. I didn't plan for that as an adult.
At the same hand, adulting hits everybody different. Another thing with this point, you know, some people don't have relationships with their parents. I've met plenty in the military and just around the world. Like some people like, I haven't talked to my dad in 20 years.
Yeah, for real.
Or I don't talk to my mom. So that's a thing.
Yeah.
So, but adulting hits, like it can hit your parents in a way just like it hits us. Like what we're talking about here, it's an unforeseen thing, though, because you see them, like you said, Coley, as a god of sorts or a representation of
They're
that.
superheroes, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times if you look back on it, like, why was Big Mama living with us? And it's like, our parents were taking care of their parents. You never process, like, you know, what strain that could have had.
That's true.
My mom's mom lived with us for a time. And it was just like, oh, my grandma's here. Dope. I never thought about, like, my dad was like, what the fuck? I got your mom's here. I got these kids. What do I get my... And so, that takes a toll. You get no respite, and you just come up with your own outlets to get there. So just kind of, that's one of the things to be prepared for. Quick anecdotal story. I was at the first ever Brownsville Kite Festival, and there was this older gentleman, real OG. He was just sitting there, and he actually taught me how to fly a kite. I've never flown a kite, 37 years old, never flew a kite. And he showed Chance and I how to fly a kite. And that video you see on our page at Ain't Gonna Hurt Nobody is a video of Chance flying a kite. And this man told us, and he came to me, he said, whatever you do, just always love and hug and kiss on your daughter. He was like, your son, he's gonna love you, but he's gonna marry that woman, and she ain't gonna want you to move in, and she ain't gonna want to take care of you. Like, he ain't gonna be able to do it. But he was like, your daughter, she'll be able to talk her husband into whatever you need to do. And when you get old, if you need a child to take care of you, it's gonna be your daughter. The fact that he's saying that so casually, like, this is gonna be the game, and like this is gonna be your life 30 years from now, got me wondering, like, I need to get in better shape. So I don't like having to rely on nobody. But the fact that he's already like, your son is gonna leave you in the cold, but your daughter won't, like, just got me to thinking. And he was like, your son though will take care of his mama, but nobody wants to take in another grown man but your daughter. So it's just one of those kind of anecdotal things just to keep in mind out there that this dude told me. So told me a couple other things, but we'll say those for other episodes.
Okay.
So to keep this show moving, let's get to point number 7. Part about adulting is having kids and what this means to your
that's
adult
a good
life.
segue.
This to me, like on the life scale, going from being single to being in a relationship or married, that's like a 4. Having a kid, on a scale of 1 to 10 is about a 15. Having that second kid is about a 22. It's literally people say having kids is a tough job. It's not a job because you can quit your job. Like, you're a parent forever.
That shit is
it's true. A responsibility no matter what. Even if
you quit on your kid,
you
they
quit
gonna
on your
get
kids,
your
you're a
ass.
piece of shit. That's what you are.
Yeah,
if you
for
quit on your
sure.
kids, I said it. You're a piece of shit if you quit on your kids.
Yeah. Some people do
It's
it.
not a societal norm.
Yes. That's,
To keep it cordial, yeah.
yes. You're still a piece of shit.
Yeah, all right. See,
when you had that kid, one, it's a huge just societal responsibility because there's a life in your hands, and what they become to this society is based solely on you, especially during these early years. They are sponges. Like, your kids are sponges and they become what you are. Also, the financial responsibility that having kids create is out of this world. The amount you spend on daycare, diapers, food, toys, doctor's visits, the amount of time you spend with them, the amount of time you're now spending without your friends or, having some romantic time with your significant other. A lot of that's just gone. You can't even take a drop of deuce by yourself.
Literally.
Somebody walking in with a toothbrush lighting up, like, dude, you ain't finna brush your teeth now. You didn't want to brush them 3 minutes ago when I told you now that I finally got this magazine going. Now you want to come in here? Get out of here.
Yeah.
So having kids is, we think about adults and it's one of the things we want to do, but I just think the amount of time and the commitment and the resources needed to be a parent is not really explained, and you don't know it until you're in it. You can't even put it in words.
Yeah, no, I mean, I really can't add too much more to it outside of the fact if having a kid is a 15 and a 22 to you, then I don't even know what number it is for me because I have actually had the child out of my womb.
We were pregnant.
Okay.
We were pregnant.
Grow. But yeah, no, I'm just saying that I think the main thing that when you have a kid and when you're a child, you're like, I'm gonna have a baby and I'm gonna name my baby Nayeli, and you got that random name picked out because you 14.
Nayeli, all right.
And then when Selah. But then when you really have, no offense to them names, but when you really have that kid, it's like nothing prepares you for it. Like, I know people say it, but it's true. It's like a mental component. Like, you could be depressed, like, for real. It's just like you're that overwhelmed. And then sometimes you think your family, extended family, is going to be that support system. But, like, you don't plan for stuff. Like, my brother, Joe, he's in the military. When we had a chance, he was deployed. There's no way in hell I knew that was going to happen.
Yeah.
Like, or my mom, when my son, she didn't have a job. She was almost like homeless at that time. So you just out here on your own. Coley's dad was sick. Like, you got to take care a bit. Like, you can't depend on anybody. And I think a lot of time in our society with movies and stuff, like, being an adult, they always make it out like it's somebody there for you. But in actuality, like, the more you're an adult, the more you realize, like, oh shit, there's nobody here for me.
Wait
like,
a minute.
Not like that.
For the
but
extended
you
family.
gotta look out for you. You gotta look out for you.
Yeah, but look, we're
Like-
repping for the extended family. Like, we help when we can, because even then,
but I'm not being bogus.
Yeah.
Like, y'all was.
But it's when you can. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Not when we need, but it's when you can. And it's different.
sometimes
It's
it is
different.
when we need.
Yeah,
but,
you can't control that.
Yeah, it's more out of our control.
And I was the same way with my sister. Like I did. I was there when I could be, not when she needed me to be. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what it was.
That's life.
That's life. Like, I have my things going on. Geography. I don't live like in the same building. Like,
that's true.
You live 90 miles away. So you're here when you can be. And ain't no shade. Ain't nothing wrong with that. But that's just part of adulting. Like, you got to rely on yourself. And it's even tougher if you and your partner ain't really fucking with each other. So just when you have a kid, it's a true responsibility and a real duty. And it takes on a lot that affects everything else. And I think what going into point number 8, which doesn't really connect to point number 7, but all of these things, just to self-reference, have happened to Joy and I in the last 2 years since we started this podcast, which to those loyal and faithful listeners, this is why we don't get the amount of episodes out that we would like, because all of these adulting issues have hit us since we've started this podcast. Nick might actually be our bad luck charm now that I think about this a little bit more.
Dang, Nick. Why they got to do you like that, baby? They do you bad, don't they?
And on his IG stories are sideways, so you might get motion sickness. But another thing you experience, point number 8, when adulting is our deaths. Like, everybody that were your superheroes are now old, and unfortunately they start dying. In the last 2 months, we've had my father pass. Well, since Joy and I, last 2 years, since we moved into our house and had a chance, my grandmother passed away. My father passed away. Joy, who on your side?
My aunt passed away. I have one family member who was incarcerated, another one who just got incarcerated.
Yeah.
Your
Grandma Levy passed away.
Grandma Levy,
well.
my grandparent, our grandfather passed away.
Yeah.
And then you just lost somebody recently too.
Yeah, my cousin Aaron literally passed away last night. We found out at like midnight last night. And these are all the people who were dope, who were fly, who used to take you out, who used to just teach you about the game. Like, they start dying, and what you realize is, like, you have to start death planning now. You have to go around and ask people what they want. Do they want to be buried? Do they want to be cremated? Do you have a life insurance policy? The fortunate thing for my dad, he had time and he had everything laid out. All of his logins to the banks, to his credit cards, to his Amazon account. He literally had everything spelled out in a nice binder for us. But that's not the case most of the time. Most of the time it's trauma. Families are torn apart. Money becomes an issue. Their average funeral costs, like on the cheap end, for his services, we were looking at $10,000 cash out of pocket to get it done. Crazy. That insurance check don't come right away, so you got to have $10,000 cash for that, and we don't got that lying around. So what you gonna do? So it just becomes a lot, and then the emotional toll that all these losses start to have, and when needing to function as a husband, excuse me, as a father, as a employee, like, that takes an emotional toll, and it's visible, and people see it. And some people are sympathetic to what's going on because they've dealt with it. Some people don't get it, and they can be assholes, and until it happens to them. So dealing with death just unfortunately becomes a part of adulting, being an adult.
Or just that's part of living. You know what I'm saying? That could hit you pretty hard.
I think it's still like, no matter how much everybody knows it's gonna happen, but nothing prepares you for like what it's gonna be like. Like, I didn't expect, like, oh man, like, okay, someone is going to eventually die, but you don't think it's gonna be like back to back to back, like, or you don't think it's just gonna be like, because I feel like with adulting, after a while you just be like expecting something to happen. Like, that's the point I'm at now. I don't want to say like I'm not optimistic, but it's like in my back of your head, you're kind of like, no, something it's going to be peaks and valleys. And
for me, that's like, that can be a source of anxiety, because in our family, we've been very fortunate. Like, our auntie passed, and that's like the first immediate family member that's like passed out of my mom's sisters. So, and we were raised around them. And then you think about your parents, you think about just older people that you encounter, especially as you yourself get older. And I mean, not to minimize people, because people deal with death at all points in life, all across different walks of life. So not to minimize that, like, you could lose a parent at 4 years old, like, but at this age, as it becomes like death due to age, you become more cognizant of it.
It's becoming it's coming in clusters. You're more cognizant, and now that you're in a relationship, it's times two. Like, the death of my father impacted Joy,
and me too.
Yeah, and like, it affected all of us. We all went to the hospital. 3 of us went to the hospital together to see him. And it, like the last images we have, he has a tube down his throat and he's being forced to breathe, you know?
Yeah.
And that's with me forever, you know? And you have to establish what's a new normal in life. Because if people ever ask you, if somebody loses a parent and you ask them, are you all right? The answer is no, because they'll never be all right. Like, never. And my good friend Steve Pache in college, you know, he lost his father maybe a year and a half ago to cancer. And he told me the same thing, like, no, I'll never be okay. And he said, a day hasn't gone by, but you're establishing a new normal, and this is your new life. And this is all part of adulting and what you got to do. So with that.
No, I just wanted to, because with the death in the family, as an adult, you more start to face your own death. The fact that, like, oh shit, like I'm gonna die, and you have to think about setting yourself up. Like, oh man, we got to get a will. Like, we got to do this. Like, it's like stuff you don't think about, especially once you have kids. And not to be like super symbolic or like too deep, but I feel as an adult, it's also like more of a death of the family. Like, they might be here, like still be here, but you just like not kicking it like you used to, like with your cousins or with your aunties and uncles. It's like when you were a kid, it always seemed like you was over there Thanksgiving, always hanging out in the summer. But as you become more of an adult, it's like, you really don't talk to each other. They have their own lives. Like, you're not that close, or you might, like how you said, people are like you're in a toxic relationship. Like, you don't talk to them for years, for like 10 years, and you don't miss them. And it's like, that's another component. Like, people just move apart.
Yeah.
And it's just,
and that goes
it's not the same.
That goes with our point earlier about friends. It should have been friends and family, because it happens both in the same way. So this brings us to point number 9. We're going to wrap these last 2 points up for you guys.
Divorce.
Divorce. Hey, listen, you know,
happy anniversary.
We haven't dealt with this yet, but the reality of the statistics say in America, 51% of marriages end in divorce. So you have a one in two chance of it happening to you. But it's a part of adulting. And so even if you're not personally going through that, whether it's infidelity, whether money is led through it, whether it's just a change in personality, because any one of these things can affect the type of person and one's disposition, you know, within a relationship. If your money all of a sudden's funny, you start losing relatives, your job isn't acting right, you start losing friends. You might not be the same person to your spouse that you were when you started the relationship, because all the different adulting points have hit you, and they might have permanently altered your disposition, and the shit happens. Or you just find happiness not like someplace else. Like, divorce is real. And if you're not dealing with it, you have friends that are dealing with it, and that's even crazier, because you have to pick sides, you know, when it comes to that.
Especially if you know them both.
Correct. So the few friends that you got left, Lord forbid they get divorced, you're just like, what the fuck do I do? We got some crazy stories which we'll get into in another episode, but divorce is real.
Yeah. And people do be tracking you, like, you were with them on Saturday. Like, they be like, and it'd be
like, yeah, I sure was. Like, yeah, I'm here with you today. Let's enjoy this time together before these kids wake up. Like, let's go. Let's get it. So we don't need to harp on this one too more. But it's a part of adulting, like love and marriage and divorce. So
and it could be multiple divorces. Like, people be getting married multiple times.
Yeah,
I remember somebody told me it's not like, you know, who can have the storybook romance with you, who can change that tire with you at 3 a.m. when you get a flat and y'all both going through something. That's the real one.
Yeah.
Who gonna hold you down for real?
Ain't they know how to do that tire? Like, marry them.
Yeah, for sure. Or just know how to, like, deal with your disposition when shit happens. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, like, it takes time, but it takes time to realize, like, some stuff just don't matter. Like, I would say the death in the family, like, before you might take mad stuff personal, and it's like some shit, it ain't like even personal, like keep it moving. And that sometimes people don't get that opportunity to realize like it ain't that important, and they get divorced. It's just done so. It is what it is on that. So I guess we're going to move on to our 10th and final point, which I'm sure you have a smile on your face regarding. And this one is health.
Correct.
Hey.
Shit. The older you get, the more stuff start breaking down. Stuff that you could.
My back hurts
Let me
right
tell you
now.
about my knee.
My back.
knee.
Man, I slept on my arm. I had to go to physical therapy this week just
Your
because
shoulder.
from sleeping, man. I couldn't feel my whole left side, and all I did was sleep. And y'all laughing. I was
No,
like,
that's
no,
true.
I can't hold my baby right now, and I had to go to physical therapy.
Word?
Yeah, it's better now. They're like, yeah, you got to stretch your neck for 10 minutes a day now just to live. Like, yo, what's happening here? Like, you actually got to get. Man, I'm not looking forward to having to get that prostate exam, but I know that's in my future.
Hey,
man.
I am, so I can know I'm straight. I mean, not to sound like a weirdo, but it ain't weird. Like prostate cancer, real as hell.
Yeah, just take off the Super Bowl ring first before you do that test. But just the older you get, like the importance of. I'll illustrate later.
I don't want to know.
The importance of like your annual physicals and actually like taking these medicines and making sure your kids are healthy and immunizations. These all become more important the older you get because your body just doesn't recover the same way. I mean, spoiler alert, even Logan died because he couldn't always hit himself.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, but it's real.
It's real. Shot in the head, and eventually
it ain't gonna work.
It ain't gonna work always. But same thing happened. Just sitting in this chair doing this episode, I'm about to have to stretch or do something.
I mean, 2 summers ago, like, I mean, I guess as a pre-30 crisis, kind of tying into adulthood, I picked up the hobby of skateboarding. I'm trash. I can't do no tricks. Don't film me. I won't be getting sponsored. But anyway, like 2 summers ago, like me and my homeboys, we could go for like an hour, 10 miles, like just on the board, like whatever, like super tight.
10 miles.
Hey, you get pretty far.
Who you skateboarding with?
You know, Danny's like, shout out Danny,
Man,
dog.
we finna skateboard to Northridge, Danny. Come on, man.
I got some. Nobody knows Milwaukee.
Okay, anyway,
but
what
middle-aged black dude skateboarding in Milwaukee.
Yeah, we probably. Hey, it's fun. Don't knock it till you try it. But anyway, 2 summers ago, we could go for like maybe 5 hours. Like last week, I could go for like an hour, and my knee was like, "Yo, this ain't the move, man. Put it up. This is it for you."
Man, you had the glasses on, man. You was skateboarding?
Nah. I took the glasses off. I done had a youth pastor joints on and skateboarding. I mean, I probably didn't look too good as I had on a busted T-shirt, but hey, it's fun.
I think another component of health is your mental health.
Yes.
Because as you're getting older, you're dealing with more, but some people are not confronting what they're dealing with. Yes. And that's in turn making more issues and more problems. So it's like when you're talking about your parents, I mean, I don't think my parents went to counseling or therapy or whatever. So a lot of those issues, they don't just go away. They actually compound and grow like exponentially. And it's just like a huge problem
because
that they're holding on. Yeah, that they're holding on the inside, and like until you confront these problems, like they don't go away. They just manifest in other ways, and that can make your adulting experience like really bad. Because I know this with a lot of people in my family. Once they hit over 40, that's what I'm scared of. But it was like 40 and 45. That's when stuff just. It's like, what's going on?
Yeah.
And it's just like, for me, I just want to like deal with the mental health.
That's true. I mean, something I would say as far as health goes too, that's been helping me these last few months. I'm happy to say I've lost 2 inches and like maybe 10 pounds. Hopefully over the next year, it'll probably be, I'll try and get under 100 pounds, but even what you eat, y'all kind of put me on that game. Like y'all been doing the juicing joint, like, and when you dealing with stress, like something as small as diet, like lately it's been, except for this weekend, but lately it's been like, you know, pretty a green diet, like for the most part, not a whole lot of crazy meats.
Like food is medicine.
Yeah, straight up.
True though.
And even when you're going through something, how you feel, like based on what you put in your body, that's gonna help you to deal with that stress a little bit better than, oh, I just ate this double burger and this shit is affecting me, but like you just be out here.
You be mad that you ate a double burger.
Yeah, straight up. On top of like whatever else is going on. But if you know, you could at least be like, well, at least I ate. You know what I'm saying? plain, just some mixed vegetables. I had my servings of fruit, and you clown your parents for that. Like, oh, you gotta drink your V8, but it should be adding up. I'm not gonna drink no V8, but
well, you might one day.
Yeah.
So we hit on a lot of things here. Definitely could have went a lot longer on all these topics, but what we'll do is in our Insta story and in the post, we'll recap all 10 of these points so you guys know what we're talking about. At Ain't Gonna Hurt Nobody. Follow us on IG. We'll recap all these points, and I'd like to continue the conversations in the comment section. So, like you guys all know, with each show, we like to end it with a little segment called Things We Wish We Would Have Known. I'll kick it off this week for us. Basically, we just want to talk about something we wish we would have known when we were younger, and just kind of grow with it. So the thing I wish I would have known is how friendships and relationships with people you consider friends and family, how they come and go. I think a lot of, I was butthurt over how some people came and went in my life, and I think some people are butthurt how I came and went in their life. I wish I would have known that's just a part of the circle of life and how we flow and move through this world. It's like, hey, be happy for the people that are in your life, and those that aren't, if you come past, if it's meant to be, it will be. If not, just got to keep it moving.
People are seasons, right?
Yeah, seasons. Oh, okay. Well, I guess I think the one thing that I wish I would have known and internalized as a person is that I believe that people are inherently good. Like, you're good because you're made by God. Like, you're good. But a lot of people will be like, oh, you're bad, or you didn't do this right. Like, beating yourself up. But it's more about choice. It's like, it's not that you're bad. It's like you made a bad choice. And it's like, okay, think about this bad choice and learn from it and what you could do different. Just think about, life is just all about choice. We're talking about the health. It's a choice. You could choose to run a marathon, but not deal with whatever mental thing that's going on, and you still gonna have issues. It's no shortcuts. It's all about the choices you make. And if you feel that you made a bad decision or choice, that doesn't mean, don't stop trusting yourself. Don't be like, oh, I don't make good decisions, and then you don't trust or believe in yourself. Just learn from it, and believe it or not, the number one thing about adulting, whatever you make a mistake on, that shit is gonna come back, and you are gonna get another opportunity to get it right.
Exactly.
That's the one thing about it that I've learned. When you feel like, damn, I fucked up, that stuff, you gonna get a chance to do that exact same experience and get it right that time. So don't beat yourself up. Don't think, don't make it out like I'm bad. It just was a bad choice, and you gonna get another shot. That's all I gotta say.
For me, I guess it's a continuation of that. I'm starting to learn that I myself am enough. You see that those are the cliche, self-help, what you call it's on Instagram or whatever. But it's true. You have to be your best fan. I know Joy said this to me this week, and it's been sticking with me. You know how on airplanes where they say if the drop down mask comes, you got to put it on yourself first, then you put it on the next person. You got to, put yourself first. I know a lot of years I kind of put maybe people pleasing ahead of myself or the opinions of others. But now as I get older, into 30, that's a good thing about adulting. You do start not giving a fuck what people say.
Yeah,
I know you see that dude in a sweatsuit and some Air Monarchs in the Walmart, that's the freest guy in the building. Try and be like, dude, he don't care. That's something I'm grateful that I know now that I didn't know before.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
Sorry, this episode seems like it was, a lot of
people might enjoy it. You never know.
It's not enough of that. Social media can be a highlight reel in these days and time.
Yeah, there's no filter for this.
You got to keep it real.
Hey. Yeah, that's all I got.
Yeah.
Cool. Wrap it up. CB.
Cool. Well, this is episode 12, Adulting Ain't Gonna Hurt Nobody podcast.
Yeah.